Hello everybody and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. It's just over 24 hours now before we play Everton at Old Trafford in the Premier League. As ever, a massive 3 points. The games are coming thick and fast and we're desperate to stay in contention. City play Liverpool this weekend. Obviously Liverpool have just had a shock home defeat to Brighton, but every game's different. There'll be more up for it against City. City might drop points this weekend. We could edge a little bit closer, but it is great when your two, closest rivals, if you like. No disrespect to Leicester, Leicester might go on and win it. I thought they'd have a tougher game at Fulham the other day, Leicester, by the way, but they went there and won 2-0 in a bit of a canter, really. But yeah, our biggest rivals historically, if you like, City and Liverpool. When they play each other, it's great because at least that they can't both get 3 points on that given day. So even if City do win, it's also good that we're going to, that if we can win our game, of course, that we'll put more daylight between us and Liverpool. Obviously, we're 4 points behind in front of Liverpool at the moment on the same games. If we can win and City happen to win, it's not the end of the world. At least we'll be 7 points in front of Liverpool and in with a great chance, really, of staying ahead of them. Which would be good. I would have took that at the start of the season. If you'd have said to me you're going to finish above Liverpool this year, I definitely would have taken it. Back to our game. Ollie's done his press conference. He's been asked about further injuries. He said Edison Cavani did have an ankle knock, but that he should. Well, he said he should definitely be okay. So I think Edison Cavani's fit to play. And no other further injuries other than the lads who have been out for a while. So everybody's fit and raring to go. I've said a few times that as football fans, we always look up the table. It's not often, I suppose it might be different for the teams right at the bottom, but it's not often you look behind yourself. You're always looking up and thinking where you could end up, if you like, if you can win your games. But a quick look behind us, and you can see where Everton are at the minute. Not that there's any easy games in the Premier League, of course. I'm not expecting Everton to be an easy game. You never would think that. But we did lose to Sheffield United only the other week. And Everton, if you look at their position, they're on 36 points, but they've only played 20 games. We're on 44 points from 22 games. If I was an Everton fan, I'd be looking at that and thinking, why can't we win at Old Trafford? If we go. When I say we, I'm talking as an Everton fan here. If they came to Old Trafford and won, they'd get to 39 points. They'd be 5 points behind us with 2 games in hand. Games in hand sometimes are not worth a sausage, if you like. Sometimes, but I'd be thinking along the lines of if we could just win one and draw one of the 2 games in hand. If obviously it's a big if they can come to Old Trafford and then win one and draw one of the 2 games in hand, they'd only be 1 point behind United. Of course, those games in hand might not be played for a while. It's hypothetical in a manner because there's different. Well, it is hypothetical. There's going to be more games played between now and then. But it's still interesting to look at a table and see that, but for having not played the full amount of games that we've played, Everton might be right on our coattails. If they'd won those 2 games, if they'd just won one and drawn one of those 2 games, had they played them, they would be on. They'd be on 40 points, so they'd be playing us, hoping to beat us and be a point behind us. So you can't underestimate your opponents in the Premier League anyway. We paid a price for doing that against Sheffield United the other week, so you wouldn't do that against Everton. I'm sure the club won't, the manager, the players won't, but I'm sure there's lots of fans out there thinking, we've got Everton at home this week, we'll just win that one easily. It's not as simple as that, it really isn't. And like I say, Everton fans will be thinking completely differently. If they can come to Old Trafford and win, they'll be right on our coattails. I did watch some of their game against Leeds during the week. It was a really open game. And I don't know if it'll be the same at Old Trafford. Obviously, that's the type of football Leeds play, I think, that led to that game being so open. But it was an interesting and exciting game, really, that Everton Leeds game. It really was. Hopefully, we can have a little bit of that, but us getting more of the goals. I'd love to have a nice win, 3 or 4-1 or 3 or 4-2 even. 4-2 would be lovely. So, I would take any win. No, it's going to be a tough game. Everton are doing really well. As I say, they're right on our coattails, desperate for us desperate for us to win it. I'll have a guess at the lineup. Some of the players virtually pick themselves these days for the league games, especially when it's a relatively tough league game, which this one is. I'll be shocked if it's not. De Gea in goal. Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof, and Shaw. I would put money on that being the keeper and the back four. I also think, obviously, McTominay and Fred, I think they'll play in the centre of midfield, and Bruno will play at number 10. So that's the back four, the keeper, 2 midfield players, that's 7, and Bruno, that's 8. The other 3 positions, I'm pretty sure Marcus Rashford will take one of those 3 positions, but it's a question of where, it's a question of who he fits into the team and how he does it. Paul Pogba's now had a breather. He has been playing most of the games, so I'm pretty sure he'll come back into the team, but it's about how he fits him in. It is possible that he would play in the centre of the midfield. Maybe Fred won't play, perhaps. Maybe McTominay won't play. But I have a fancy those 2 will both play in this game. I really have. So I think Pogba might come in either wide right or wide left. So the manager's got a bit of a job on his hands. And as I say, I've picked 8. I think Pogba will play, which would be 9. He might play wide right or wide left, and then Marcus Rashford will play either wide right or wide left. That's 10 of the positions taken up. And then it's between really Cavani and Anthony Martial. As I always say, this is not what I'd do. This is what I'm thinking what the manager will do. Anthony Martial would be in my team every single day of the week without any question. The team sheet would come with his name printed on it. But I've got a feeling tomorrow, I think he might be struggling to get in. It might be Pogba one side, Rashford the other, and Cavani at number 9, which to me is it's a poor show if he doesn't get into the side. I'm going to do a show about. I'm going to do a separate show later on today, which will probably go up tomorrow. I put something on Twitter earlier about don't worry about who's scoring a goal so long as somebody is, and we have scored more goals than anybody else in the Premier League, courtesy of scoring 9 the other night. But if we just scored a reasonable number of goals the other night, say 4, then we would still be the second top scorers in the league, and I don't think that's too bad. So I'm going to do a show about it. What I said on Twitter was that don't worry about who scores the goals, and if somebody's not scoring the goals, so long as the team are scoring goals, it doesn't matter. And don't think that if a player had scored 5 or 6 or 7 extra goals, that necessarily means that the team would have scored 5, 6 or 7 extra goals. It really doesn't. And I'm going to go into that in depth on a different show later today. I'm going to really explain it in depth, why I think that. Well, not why I think it, why I know that. And I think you'll be. I think it'll be very interesting if you want to watch that show later on. Back to the table. Like I say, I think the team, I think Martial might miss out, Cavani might start at 9, and I think Pogba one side and Rashford the other. Virtually the rest of the team picks itself. Whatever team he picks, I hope we win. We want the 3 points dramatically. I've just mentioned that City play Liverpool. I'd love that game to be a draw. I really would love it to be a draw. As we speak, we're 4 points in front of Liverpool. Obviously, we've got to win our own games, take care of our own business. So if we can beat Everton and that game's a draw, that'll put us on to 47. Liverpool would get to 41. We'd be 6 points in front of Liverpool, which would be good. And obviously, City would get a point and get to 48. Would be a point behind City. A lot of people might be thinking you want Liverpool to win, but we're on the same games as Liverpool. If Liverpool win, they're still pretty close to us. I'd sooner it was a draw, me. So I'd love that game to be a draw. Leicester, who are third, they're away to Wolves. That's always a tricky fixture, even though they are not quite themselves. Wolves, that at the moment, they're still a difficult opponent. They really are. Leicester are away to Wolves. Anybody's guess how that one will go. But Leicester at the minute are 2 points behind us on the same games. So there may be a possibility of a gap opening up there. Again, as I say, if we can win our game. And West Ham. West Ham is very interesting. They're away to Fulham. Fulham have been making themselves difficult to beat in recent weeks or even months, if you like. It goes back quite a few games now, so it's not nailed on. But at the end of the day, Fulham are in the bottom three. They have just lost at home to Leicester 2-0. It will be a game that West Ham will be fancying that they can win. Even West Ham can get to, no disrespect when I say even West Ham can get to 41 points. If we didn't do our job, say we even drew 45 points, wouldn't be a massive gap between us and West Ham. If they were on 41 and we drew, we'd be on 45. So even West Ham, you can't just say that it's not going to happen, that they can't get closer to us. A little bit further back, Spurs, 21 games, 33 points. I think it's all gone pear-shaped for Jose. I watched them play Chelsea. I watched a lot of the game. I didn't see it all. But without Harry Kane, they look absolutely powder puff, Spurs. They really do. They look pretty poor, to be honest. They're on 33 points at the minute, Spurs. They've got one game in hand on us, but with 11 points in front of them. I always compare teams to where we are in the table, unless you get right to the bottom, of course. But Spurs, as I say, already 11 points behind us. I don't think there's anything to worry about there. I can't see, it's not long ago now, it really isn't long ago when they were being spoken about as possible champions. And right now, I've got to be honest, I can't see Spurs getting in the top four. I really can't. I mean, the Liverpool are in fourth. Spurs have got one game in hand on Liverpool, but they're 7 points behind Liverpool, and there's teams, Spurs are in eighth. There are other teams as well between Spurs and Liverpool who have got, possibilities. Even West Ham, like I've just said, they won't be giving up hope that they could squeeze into that top four. I'm not saying it can happen. I don't think it will happen, but you can't just rule them out completely. You really can't. Spurs and Chelsea the other night, interesting with the new man Tuchel in charge at Chelsea. I've often said on this show lots and lots of times, you've got to get your back right, your back line. You've got to get your defence right. And I've said top managers, any manager really, proper managers, they go into a club and you make yourself difficult to beat and difficult to score against, and you go from there. I've said it lots of times, and I've had one or two people disagree with me, but they've had 3 games now, Chelsea. They've drawn 0-0 with Wolves. They've beaten Burnley 2-0, and they've beaten Spurs 1-0. So they've took 7 points from 3 games, and they are yet to concede a goal with the new manager in charge. I find that very interesting. Chelsea are on 36 points from 22 games. Again, in relation to us, they're 8 points behind us on the same games. But it only takes you going on a run, and you just never know where it could take you. So I wouldn't rule Chelsea out. Certainly out of the top 4, I wouldn't rule them out. But I wouldn't say for certain that we're above them yet. I really wouldn't. We're above them right now. Of course we are. But with 8 points in front of them, and I don't think 8 points is insurmountable. I really don't. If they can keep their run of form going. I've had a quick look at their upcoming games. The next 2 games are against Sheffield United and Newcastle. As I've said, there's no guarantees in the Premier League. There really isn't. But you would look at that and think, they should get another 6 points really from the next 2 fixtures. So if they can do that and then have a look at the table, I'm sure they'll be climbing and getting a little bit closer, and we can't really afford to be even if we drop 2 points in our next I don't know 4 or 5 games. You might well find Chelsea are much closer to us. So I think as far down as Spurs we need to be concerned about. Arsenal completely gone. Arsenal 22 games, 31 points. We're on the same games as Arsenal, and with 13 points in front of them. So I'll be astonished if Arsenal can get anywhere near us really, or certainly I'd be astonished if they could catch us. It's not impossible they could get to within 4 or 5 points of us, and that might be, you could say that that's somewhere near us. But I'll be astonished if they caught us 13 points behind us on the same games. Tomorrow they're away to Villa. Obviously Villa are having a good season. Villa are in 9th, Arsenal are in 10th. Villa have played 20 games though, and Arsenal have played 22. So Villa are 1 point in front of Arsenal with 2 games in hand. I would suggest if Villa beat Arsenal tomorrow, they're going to have the work cut out overtaking Villa. But I do fancy. I think Villa have just just a little bit out of form right now. I really do. I think Arsenal have turned a corner a little bit. I know they got beat at Wolves during the week. Really tricky fixture. Wolves away. They were down to 10 men, just before the half-time whistle. So I do fancy. I fancy Arsenal to win at Villa. If they get beat there, though, I think they can definitely wave bye-bye. They might even have to wave bye-bye to Europa League position, let alone Champions League. So that's a little bit of a rundown of the upcoming fixtures, the league table. Obviously, what I think United's lineup should be. I'd pick 3 or 4 different players that Ollie wouldn't pick, but what I think it might be. Desperate for us to win. Love us to get to 47 points. And then see what we play Saturday night. City and Liverpool play Sunday. Like I say, I'd love us to win Saturday night and for them to play on Sunday and draw with each other. It'd be brilliant, absolutely brilliant. That Fulham West Ham game that I mentioned, by the way, I think that's just before our game tomorrow. So when we actually if West Ham win at Fulham, when we actually kick off against Everton, we're only 3 points in front of West Ham. Why am I mentioning that? You might say, wow, we're going to leave West Ham behind. You can't just say that. It isn't as simple as that. I expect us to, of course I do, but you still got to look at it. We're comfortably into the second half of the season now. 22 games played. So any team that's up there now are going to have the sights set on getting in the top 4 or certainly in the top 6 or 7 to get Europa League. So I wouldn't just write them off, although I do expect it to be a bit too far for them to catch us. But it'd be interesting. West Ham beat Fulham first with 3 points in front of them before we kick off against Everton. Massive game against Everton. I don't think they've got too many injury problems. Calvert-Lewin will be playing. Always a tough game for our centre-back playing against him. But I do fancy us to win it. I always do, though, I suppose. Or I often do. I do fancy us to win it. Hope we win it and get up to the 47 points. If you've enjoyed that show, please tell all your friends. Please subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anybody. Keep stum.